So we talked about you just got to keep going there, and that you do a lot of churn. But is your bet? Does that mean that you can ignore the value side of things a bit? So, or does it still mean that if you give a dog a 25% chance of winning, it's got to be 130 at least for a bet?
Yeah. So I get the prices. The prices to 100% book get spat out of the system, and I add in a 15% margin. And I will not, under any circumstance, go under that percentage. So that ensures that I'm getting value as long as my judgment is within 15% right.
Okay. Now you mentioned before that you can't get on with conventional bookmakers, so I assume that means you do most of your business on the exchanges. Apparently, there's more liquidity on the machine these days, but people are struggling to beat it. Is that because they're taking on people like you?
I hope so. I don't know. I mean, you can't. It probably is. Yeah. I mean, you can't get on huge amounts of money. But I'm doing so many races, it doesn't really matter. And actually, and when you think about it, I'm producing prices for every dog, and you've got back and lay win, back and lay place. That's 24 positions potentially. So I always find an edge in each race. I'd say in the main, but if I don't, then I just leave it. So I might fancy something at 2.8, and it never goes above 2.3. I'll leave it. It's fine. I've got another one in 5 minutes. So
lay it.
Well, possibly, yeah. I mean, I think laying's it's interesting actually, because I find that for my results, I'm far more successful when I back rather than lay. My margin's a lot higher. I've got a few theories about that, but I think I just find that I do it more as a backer.
So does your system? How long have you been running it successfully?
Well, I started writing it about 20 years ago, and then my career my career got going a lot more, and I started a family, and so I mothballed it, and then I brought it back out about 6-7 years ago, and started it up again, and then I've really added to it a lot since then. So I'd say it's been going very successfully for 3 years.
Yeah, so assuming you've sort of been fine tuning it in that time, have the losing runs that it churns out diminished in that time, or are you still just confident that the overall? Does it even dish out bad runs? I mean, what would be your worst string of losers following it?
Probably, I would say I might have gone 12 races, something like that. But I mean, it's as long as you're betting value, it doesn't really matter. I think the really important thing to remember, I think, as a punter, is that if you get to a point where you don't really care if it wins or loses, you are probably not a bad place, really. Because then you're just trusting the process, and you're going to get bad runs, you get good runs, and so I don't really worry about that, really, because I know it's going to happen, but I know good runs will happen as well, and I know ultimately the margin will be X after. It might be a percentage figure 1 month, percentage figure, different percentages, but ultimately I know over a long period of time that percentage will be X.
Do you worry that the sort of mathematical edge that you found will erode, and you actively keep trying to keep a step ahead all the time?
I think it is being eroded. I just when I watch the markets, I do see a slight erosion, but my approach to that is I've got 2 or 3 other sort of elements I can add to my system, which I know would increase the margin, but I don't want to put them in yet. I just want to wait until my margin goes down more as the market catches up, and then I'll add them in again. So I'm sort of keeping my powder keg dry, so to speak, and then I'll add more to it.
So you're a few moves ahead in the chess game already.
Well, I think you've got to be, yeah. And I think you want, but I don't want to sort of play them all my hand at once. So I think I can add more to it in due course.
Okay, so I'm assuming that with the liquidity that there is and the problems getting on, that this is something you've really got to keep under your hat. You could never share the system or flog it to anybody or put your selections out there.
No, there's no need really. I mean, thought about it, but to be honest, Simon, I think no, I don't really need to do that. So it's fine.
Now, you've been a successful punter on the horses and the greyhounds for the sound of it, quite a long time. But you've never taken the plunge to be a full-time punter. Why is that?
Well, I'd say, I mean, I think now I mean, I have a business interest, but I think I am now 50-50 in terms of the punting side and the business side. I mean, I've had a reasonable career in I'm a qualified accountant, and I've had quite senior FD roles and that kind of stuff. So, and that was that was good, and meant I could earn a good living and that kind of thing. So, that was the reason, really. I didn't need to do it, and now I want to sort of, whilst I maintain other things as well, I can spend more time doing this and make more from it. So I think I'll see what happens. But and the other thing as well, if I did it all the time, I think it'd probably drive me a bit mad. I like to, I'm sitting at home doing it all the time. I like to get out and see clients and do other types of work. And I have developed a niche in those business areas as well, which I've got a good reputation for. So I don't want to sort of throw that away. So so I can have the best of both worlds doing this.
Okay, no, like I say, we had a bit of correspondence before we did this interview, and there's a few things you wanted to mention and talk about. And one of them intrigued me: the importance of connections in betting. What do you mean by that?
Well, I've found, for sort of 20 years of betting, it was quite a sort of solitary thing. I didn't really know anybody. I mean, none of my sort of close friends were interested in the slightest, and so it was something I just did on my own. I went racing on my own. I didn't really speak to anyone about it, and then I thought, well, if you want to really develop, I think if you can make good connections, you can learn a lot more. And I've met a lot of people. I mentioned Jerry, who's been really helpful, and Ben Keith, of course, he's given me some good advice, and numerous other people. I know one or two professionals. I've got a very good friend who punts at Southall, and and I don't know how he does it. We don't talk about it in terms of how our different approaches, but it's he's really helped me on the psychological side, and so it's just you're learning and being educated through those kind of connections, and I just think it makes a difference to people, so they can learn more and get better.
And talking about getting better, you also think that people should be educated more in all aspects of gambling.
Well, yeah, I've got a real bee in my bonnet about this, Simon, because I think the game's doing itself no favours in terms of sort of the next generation, and I think we have a major problem with gambling addiction. But if you take say something like smoking, for example, where at school, you remember this, Simon, when you're at school, you were told, smoking gives you lung cancer. Don't do it. And I'm sure that put a lot of people off doing it. Betting, no one talks about betting. And I think if children were educated about it as part of the syllabus in terms of how it works, how the overround works, it's a great way to teach maths as well. How children would be, I think it might put a lot of kids off, because I think children, they think, oh, well, I can win at betting, but unless you really put the work in, you can't. And I think that can. I know there are a lot of different issues in addiction and gambling addiction, but this is just one small element. I think what might stop people getting into it if they're educated about it. A bit like smoking, they might not do it. Now, the other problem I've got is that gambling seen as a bad thing and it's swept under the carpet. Now, I took about a year ago, I took my kids to a Greyhound meeting, and I was told, I got there and we sat down, and I asked for a race card, and they said, I'll give you one, but I can't give you children a race card. We're not allowed to. And I sat there with the kids, and this chap comes up, one of the employees there, and he gives me this like sheet of paper, and it's like all these things the kids can't do. So the kids aren't allowed a race card. They're not allowed to stand in the queue if you're having a bet on the table. All these kind of things. I thought, what there's someone on high who's sending these things down to the race courses, greyhound horses, whatever, and they're pretending that, you know, they're trying to stop betting from existing, and it's not good. I don't think it's going to close down the interest of children. I think you have to educate children how it works in the schools, obviously secondary school, and you have to, you know, you can't cover it up. You've really got to educate and allow children to get involved in the sport. You know, my kids have lost interest because, you know, what's the point for them? It's boring going for them now. They can't look at the race. What can they do? The greyhound racing has such an opportunity, but we live in a society where people want to have things straight away. Greyhound racing is fast. There's a race every 15 minutes. They're not hanging around like that at horse racing. Dogs they're lovely creatures, greyhounds. We've got a retired greyhound at home, lovely animal. And children are interested in dogs. Dave Clark at the Racing Post was talking a lot in the past about the children's races that at Toaster and getting children more involved, but just turning off your future clientele. And I think if you educate children properly on the pitfalls of betting and why you can't lose if you just, you know, if you do it, if you can't win if you just do it regularly without the work, and how the mechanisms of it, and you don't hide it, you get them into the tracks and you involve them through the dogs, I think then we're in danger, Simon, of alienating the future generation in the sport.